So I hated being there. By the time I was a freshman in college, I wouldn't say I was like a full-on deist. Like, I believed in like the resurrection, and whereas deists like totally deny that, they don't believe in the resurrection and all that. I believed in that. I just didn't. I did see God as kind of more so like what did they say? Like, he kind of created the world and everything in it, and he kind of spin it, set it into motion. He kind of just sits back and lets things happen. I can't even believe I believed something like that. It's so ridiculous and couldn't be further from the truth. But that's what I thought. I would sit in, freshman year, I'd sit in like our Christian 101 fundamentals Christianity class, and just, I didn't, people would talk about their testimony. It's really ironic because I'm giving mine now, and I would just think, oh, they'd always talk about, oh, God did this and that for me, and I thought, I would think God didn't do that. Like, you overcame, and you did this and that. I had no idea what was up and what was down at that time. And I didn't buy a lot of it. Again, I had no clue. So, that was sort of where I was at my first semester of college. And then second semester I took, sorry, I'm going in a lot of detail, but why not give you the good version? I took an Old Testament class, because we were required to take like 4 Christian classes, like Old Testament, New Testament, and Christian faith and whatnot. And so I remember we would have like a book, and it would kind of go through some of the Old Testament stuff. And instead of like reading it, kind of like paraphrased the stuff like in the Old Testament, stories about like Abraham and this and that. And as I was like, we'd have to read that. That was part of our assignment. As I would read it, it was like, something shifted where I just, there's one story in particular where it was like, there was some kind of war the Israelites had, and I think it was like against the Philistines. And what happened was like when they fight a war, right, they take like the booty, or they like loot them, right? So they took like the Ark of the Covenant or something like that from like the Holy of Holies. Somebody, I don't know if I'm 100%, somebody's got to know what I'm talking about. Like, and they took it, and then it was in their camp, and it was near their fake god or whatever. And then what happened? Then there was like all this weird stuff that started to happen to them. Like their god, when they woke up the next morning, their god was like down on its face, like bowing down to like the, representing. And I just thought that was so crazy, and I believed it. I wasn't that much of a skeptic, and I just thought, that's my God, that's so cool. And slowly the shift started to happen. I started to read the Bible a little bit more. I don't know if part of it was, I was changing, or part of it was like, what we were assigned to read. I really don't remember. So that was kind of when a shift started to take place. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Yeah, and then, let's see, my sophomore year, there was this guy that I had met through this ministry. That's kind of an interesting story right there. And then, yeah, he was someone, we kind of became friends with my best friend at the time, was also friends with him, so we kind of had a friendship, and he was a pastoral ministry major and stuff, and we had this thing on our campus. It was called like Party with Jesus. Oh shoot. And it was this thing, I don't know, they would come out and worship in like this little cabin we had on campus, and they would come out and worship, and some guy would kind of preach a message. I never really went, but that was something he would go to, and he got my friend to go to it. She would tell me, oh, it's so awesome, and this and that. I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's, no thanks. Party with Jesus sounds a little, a little crazy. I mean, not crazy, but like, what happens there? What do they, I thought it was very like charismatic or something like that, even though our school or denomination, totally not charismatic in any way. Interestingly, kind of denies some of the gifts, really just kind of denies Holy Spirit in the sense of they don't really acknowledge like all the spiritual gifts, like prophecy and like healing and tongues and stuff like that, which kind of explains why it's so dead, you know, and its churches are kind of so lifeless, you know, because I had been to several of them. There were several in that area. There's one affiliated with our college. Anyways, yeah, so back to Party with Jesus, and I would, you know, she would tell me, oh, it's so great and stuff, and I'm kind of like, yeah, that's not for me. It sounds a little too wild, even though it really wasn't. And so she started to kind of grow in her faith, and my best friend did, you know, especially she liked this guy and stuff, and so he was kind of more serious about the faith, and he kind of pushed her to get more serious about it, and kind of me too, in a way. I was kind of seeking a little bit more and becoming more open. And then what happened was, end of the first semester sophomore year, I came across this book. It was called Crazy Love by Francis Chan. And that book I read that over like Christmas break. That book just totally changed me. That's kind of what lit the fire, honestly. You know, it was such an interesting book. I really don't remember a lot of what it said anymore, but kind of the gist of it was like, you know, God loves us, you know, so much. Yahweh God loves us so much, and Yahushua loves us so much, and, you know, look what he did for us on the cross. He saved us. He ransomed us from hell, which we all deserve, and he won us forever with him, with them, and in a place that's so wonderful that we don't deserve. He was just saying, like, how, you know, look at how we live as Christians in America, where we just have no, you know, we try to be good, you know, we try not to swear, but where's our love for God? I don't remember, you know, if his thing was, you know, we should really be loving people and stuff like that. That's a big thing in the church, I feel, at least in America right now, loving on people, love everyone. It's like the love gospel. I'm not knocking it entirely, but, you know, we should love Yahweh God first. You know, and yeah, anyways, so that book really kind of changed. It really just set me on fire, I feel. You know, through that book, I think IMMAYAH kind of lit that fire in me. I want to give the credit to the book. It's, you know, the Ruach HaKodesh working, and he, in that book, in Crazy Love, he has kind of this challenge. He talks about how, I thought this was so true at the time, to, like, so much, you never really hear the gospels being preached from. And when I would go to church and stuff, and chapel and things, they would always preach so much from, like, Paul's stuff, like the letters. And I mean, it's good stuff, but it's like, why don't you ever hear from Yahushua? He's like God incarnate. It's like, this is, you know, God came down on earth and he preached. It's like, this should be like front and center, and we should hear a lot more from it. And he had this challenge, like, you know, about where he would challenge people, you know, like, I dare you to read all the gospels, start, you know, from Matthew all the way to John. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to read a lot of the Gospels, kind of neglected some of Paul's stuff, but it was really great to read that. And I remember, I think that's kind of when I really came back to God and had really, truly started to have a relationship with him. And it was more so based out of, I feel like, you know, love as opposed to obligation. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I wanted to do. And I can still remember, you know, it was kind of like that first love kind of thing, where I would do it diligently, like every day. It didn't matter like how late I stay out with friends, come back 1, 2 in the morning, maybe not that late, but like 1 in the morning or midnight, I'd still, you know, read my Bible, and I would still just pray, I would just yabber on and on and on about stuff to Yahushua. And I don't know how he puts up with that, because I talk a lot sometimes, and it has really been a lesson to learn, you know. You need to listen, let him speak, because he has a lot of good things to say. You know, but he listens, and he loves me, and he loves us. And he can handle all of us, right? So, I don't know, I just remember all I wanted was to be with him and to hug him one day. I would say that to him all the time. And I don't know, I don't know what it was. I would get distracted a lot too. I mean, if you can tell by watching this video. But, you know, I get distracted a lot, but still, I just love that time together and coming into his word and praying and to know that I was heard, that I was loved, you know, in spite of all. I would just tell him everything about my day and all the things that worried me and this and that, and it was awesome. And I was, you know, like I said, in college at that time, there was just this big, like, love people movement and, like, reaching out to homeless and ministry and stuff like that. And that was how we, you know, serving God. And that was what I tried to do through that time. And eventually, I think it was end of my sophomore year, I decided, you know, I started to go to this party with Jesus thing with my best friend. And someone, you know, I had some other friends who would go to it too. And I went through that, you know, during my junior year, and it was actually really awesome. You know, and the worship was great, and it was just so cool to be around other brothers and sisters who were seemingly on fire for God and really, you know, were seeking Him and wanting to know Him. And the guy who would preach, it was really cool because you could just really tell that the Ruach HaKodesh, you know, would speak through him, because it was always very convicting what he was saying. I thought, man, this is so much better than going to church. I tried to go to churches there, and it was Christian college, and it's interesting because there's so many things that I was taught and told when I was in college that I've had to, like, unlearn, that I've unlearned through, like, AmightyWind. So that's, like, one thing, for example, is, like, there's always this big thing about, they always kind of joke about people who are, like, church hoppers, and people who never really, like, settled down in one church. I don't know if I really consider myself a total church hopper, because I wasn't huge on going to church. Like, I'd kind of been to a couple of different churches, but I just never, I don't know, a lot of times, I don't know, I just never felt like I belonged there. Part of it could have been, you know, cultural thing too, or just personality. You know, I was just a very shy person and whatnot, and you know, I was growing and still learning a lot, you know, but it was so different when I was you know, in school at that college with my, you know, fellow classmates. There's such a different attitude, I felt, you know, especially with people when you're at Party with Jesus and stuff like that. You know, they just seem more sincere and more earnest and trying to really grow in their relationship with God and to seek Him and know Him. And whereas I didn't see that in church. I didn't see that amongst the pastors, the older people, you know, and I wanted so badly to have somebody mentor me and kind of take me under their wing. And I longed and I looked for somebody who, you know, was on fire and had that passion for ELOHIM-YAH, and I didn't really ever see that. Even with a lot of my professors, you know, I tried, you know, sometimes talk to them about things, but I didn't see a lot of that. So, you know, it was more so with other students on campus. There was another ministry we had. It was like a prayer ministry, like a prayer warrior ministry. Well, that was a little later, I guess. But you know, going to Party with Jesus, and it was something that helped me, you know, through my junior year a lot. It really taught me some things, and he spoke about stuff, you know, like tithing and things, and repenting. I remember he had this real sermon. It was like about John 15, I think. You know, the one where it's like, abide in me, and like, sorry, the you know, I'm the vine and you're the branches, and bearing fruit, and if you abide in me, kind of a thing. That really stuck with me. Like, man, it's really important to stay close and connected with God. And yeah, it was just, it was not the kind of stuff I would hear in church or even in chapel, really. So that was helpful. And then I started to go to Bible study, and it was, you know, it was just a good thing to kind of learn from my other brothers and sisters who, you know, taught me and things like that. And we kind of learned and grew together. Me and my friends.